Theme song. No longer am I just a man. I'll only go by Superman.
Hello and welcome to episode 12 of Our Dads Are Brothers, a TV and movie review podcast. I'm Nathan Tracy along with my co-host.
I'm Bat Tracy. In today's episode, we are diving into the wide range of Superman movies.
But not that wide.
No, it's not really, it's pretty limited actually. They haven't made many of them.
Yeah, just the early ones, like the only black and white ones.
Yeah, anything before 1950.
That's it. Just kidding. We're gonna go up all the way to 2006. Then I'll put a pause there. I will be honest, I've not seen a single thing on this list. So I'm gonna pretend I have.
Ever in your life?
Correct.
Wow.
Off this list. No. Yes, I'm just gonna pretend. I might have seen Superman Returns. I just don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll pretend. Everyone will be like, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. And I'm going to be like, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, anyways, how have you been?
I've been pretty good. Just
Good.
hanging out and watching some stuff. But I actually have not been watching many things this week. I've been watching the Tour de France. I've been waking up early daily to watch that. It's been very cool. Tadej Pogačar is just my favorite athlete right now. I think he has what it takes to win the whole damn race, and it's very exciting. And there's been some crazy crashes. Daniel Oss broke his neck because he collided with a pedestrian, and it was pretty crazy. He finished the race, the stage that they were on that day. He finished, and then after the race, they checked him out, and they're like, "Hey, dude, you broke your neck. You gotta retire from the race." And he was like, "Ah, shit. All right."
Those damn pedestrians always in the way.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So how have you been?
Wasn't there a protest you told me about?
Yeah, it was pretty funny because like the guy who was in the lead, I can't remember his name, but he had a pretty significant gap between him and the peloton, which the peloton is the group of riders that is behind the leader. So he like comes to a stop, and the commentators start talking about how there was like a train going by and how trains usually stop for the racers or something like that. And then like the peloton started to catch up, and they all were like sitting there stopping, and then the commentators were like, yeah, there's a protest on the street. They're protesting the Ukraine war. So that was like a couple of minutes, and then a couple minutes later the commentator goes, so I just want to let everyone know that we were misinformed. We got fed some bad news, but our source now has told us that it is a protest about the environment, and we support them, but if you could please get off the street because we have a race to finish here, folks. And it maybe took up like 10 minutes. Like they stopped for 10 minutes, and they were talking about how it might have been nice to give the racers a break for the day, but it was funny because like the first group was sitting there for a few minutes, stopped, and then the second group who was catching up to the first group, they were starting to come up, and like the motorcycle that was leading them started like put their hand up and was like, whoa, wait. And then like the riders started to notice that all the other riders were stopped, and they all were stopping, and they're like, wait, what the hell is going on here? Why are we stopped?
That's not how you do a bicycle race.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. But how have you been?
I've been good. Not as good as watching some bicycles, but I had my birthday a few days ago.
Oh, happy belated birthday, I guess. Forgot it was your birthday. So you're 30?
That's okay. No, 29.
Oh, okay.
Had a good day. Had some good food and good times. Good times had by all. Just been watching normal stuff. Celebrity Family Feud just premiered again. New season.
And that's celebrities and their families?
Yeah, or a cast from a show. Like the first one was like the Abbott Elementary versus I forget who. Then the next one was Cal Penn and his family.
Okay.
Versus I don't remember who. Yeah, it was a good time.
I like Cal Penn. He's actually in one of the movies we're going to be talking about today.
Whoa.
Yeah. Were you watching anything else? Because I know you weren't watching Superman.
I've actually been away from the TV a lot this last week. I wish I was watching Superman.
Wow.
But sorry, folks. I took some time off work, so I wasn't watching much anything. We were getting stuff around the house done. We were out a lot, things like that.
Okay.
Video games, a little bit of video games.
I have been playing a little bit of video games recently. I was playing Thrillville. on the PlayStation 2.
Is that where you build Roller Coaster Park?
I don't know if you kind of build one, but like, yeah, you own a amusement park. It was, I got it for $1 at Goodwill, but it was made by LucasArts.
Oh, cool.
Which, yeah, makes of course, Star Wars at the time.
Nice.
Shall we move on?
To what?
Celebrity birthdays of today.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Sure.
Okay.
You want to do it or do you want me to?
Yeah, why don't you do it?
Okay. Well, today is July 14th, and we have Alicia Wainwright, Igmar Bergman, Jane Lynch, Harry Dean Stanton, Kyle Gass, Matthew Fox, Phoebe Walterbridge, Sid Haig, and William Hanna.
And Joey Styles, who's the old commentator for ECW.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah.
Who shall we highlight today?
I would like to choose Harry Dean Stanton.
Okay. He was born in 1926 and unfortunately died September 15th, 2017 at the age of 91.
So he would be like 96 this year?
Correct.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
He was pretty old.
Yeah. He was born in Los Angeles, California, and he was best known for Alien, Escape from New York, Christine, Red Dawn, Pretty in Pink, The Green Mile, Lucky, and the show Big Love.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen a lot of things with him. I quite like him as an actor. He's a character actor. He's popped in a lot of things. I think he's been in like over 100 movies in his career or something like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't recognize the name, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think if you saw a picture of him, you'd probably recognize him because he's in tons of stuff. He was originally credited as Dean Stanton to avoid confusion with the actor Harry Stanton, but then obviously switched to Harry Dean Stanton, which is his full name. Growing up, he wanted to be either a singer or an actor, but he chose to be an actor because he thought singing would be involved in roles. So he's like, yeah, that way I can do both the things I want to do.
Well, that's a fun fact.
I thought so too. I also thought it was interesting that William Hanna, it was his birthday today, because he is Hannah from Hanna-Barbera that did like the Jetsons and Scooby-Doo and all those shows.
Very cool.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. So I want to mention it.
Nice. Well, I'm going to quick give out our email. It's ourdadsarbrothers@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. We haven't heard from any of you yet.
Email us, god damn it.
Come on. Say, hey, what's up? Or send us a picture of your cat. That right there will get them. Give us some reviews, comments, suggestions, anything you want, or don't.
And if you want to give us a 5-star review on anything you're listening this on, that would be helpful.
Very helpful. And also, if you have any dollars in your pocket at the end of every month, you can give us a little support. It's in our box. Just got an email. Not from these listeners. Not from these listeners. Y'all should email us. You haven't even edited it. Got one.
It's like, that was fast.
Yeah, it just says we got a new TikTok like. Also, to get right into it.
I think we should.
All right. Well,
now, you told me before recording that you wanted to run the show because you've seen everything Superman related.
yes, I'm a Superman expert.
Okay.
I thought, especially since your name is Bat, like Batman talking about Superman, you can just sit back. Just kidding. I will comment every now and again. This is your episode. I will keep it short.
I will say I watched too much Superman. I was a little Supermaned out after the end of this. So jumping right in, I guess we'll start in the early days of the character. I did not watch these. I'm only going to mention that they exist. There was two serials, one from 1948 called Superman. It was directed by Spencer Gordon Bennett and Thomas Carr. And then there was one in 1950 called Atom Man versus Superman. And that one was directed just by Spencer Gordon Bennett alone. And both of them featured Kirk Alyn as the first ever actor to play a live action Superman.
Nice. Did he look good?
I think it looks okay if you judge it by it's the 1940s/1950, but no, it doesn't look great.
I meant Kirk Alyn as Superman. I'm going to look him up. Oh, yeah, he looks like a good Superman.
Yeah, I thought you meant specifically the costume.
No.
And I don't think the costume looks great.
I 100% agree.
It has a really poorly designed S.
Yes, it's like, oh crap, tomorrow's Halloween. Mom, make me a costume. Okay, here you go. Well, wear it anyways. That's what that's what that looks like.
Yeah, it doesn't look great. But moving on to 1951, just 1 year later, we had Superman in his first ever feature-length film, Superman and the Mole Men. It was Superman and the Mole Men, and it was originally created as a trial episode for the adventures of the Superman TV series that was starting, but it was released as a feature length, and it was eventually turned into a two-part episode called The Unknown People. But it is Superman and the Mole Men, and it stars George Reeves as Superman. And I think George Reeves looks great as Superman, but the one thing about him is the cape is awful. It hangs so low on his back. It looks insane.
No capes.
Like you should Google it. It just looks terrible. But I got a couple notes about this one. This is actually the first time I ever watched this movie. It was directed by Lee Sholem and it has an 83% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. I thought it was actually pretty decent for the time period it was released. But the mole men, when they're introduced into the movie, they're peeping toms. Like they're walking through bushes and then they're like looking in a window on a girl changing. Is pretty funny. In the movie, there's a hollow Earth, which I think a hollow Earth is such a weird theory that people have about the real life Earth. And so I thought it was fun that there's a hollow Earth in the movie in 1951, and the mole men live inside the hollow Earth. There's a scene about halfway through the movie where this little girl, she's like 6 or 8 or something, she meets the mole men, and so like everyone in town thinks the mole men are these evil creatures that are like gonna eat them in their sleep or some shit. But she meets them and she's like, "Oh, you guys aren't that bad. You're pretty nice." And they're like, "Yeah, we are nice. We're just hanging out." The people in the town find her playing with the mole men and they chase the mole men away into this building, and then they fucking light the building on fire and they're gonna burn the mole men alive. It was crazy.
I mean, you gotta get the job done. They are rodents.
I guess.
What's next?
Next up, from 1954, I honestly don't know why I included this one, but I did. So we're going to talk about it. It's Stamp Day for Superman. It's directed by Thomas Carr, the second director of the original Superman series. I like that both of those guys got to direct something alone. This one, it also has George Reeves in it. It's 18 minutes long, and it's basically a PSA Superman. It's like an episode of the show where he deals with a crime or whatever, and then it ends with him like showing up to a school and giving a speech to some kids where he's like, "You gotta save all your money that you go do your chores and you get some money and you save all that money. You go buy stamps, and then you save the stamps and you use those stamps by saving bonds and you help America win some wars or some shit." And all the kids are like, "Yeah, Superman, you're the best."
Yeah, it was produced for the U.S. Treasury to promote Stamp Day.
Yeah, it's I give this one 1 star. It was pretty lame.
Does anyone know when Stamp Day is?
I do not know when Stamp Day is.
Dramatic pause. July 1st. We just missed it.
We just missed it. God damn it. We should have put more effort into this.
We should have bought some stamps.
All right, so we're done with all that trash now. Got all that out of the way. It's not all trash though, because George Reeves, like I said, I do think he makes a wonderful Superman, and he had a tragic backstory. Like his death is pretty tragic, and if you ever want to learn more about that, go watch the movie Hollywoodland. It's got Ben Affleck in it. Ben Affleck actually portrays George Reeves. It's a fantastic movie. And fun fact about that, Ben Affleck is the only actor to ever have worn the Superman and the Batman suit on film in a theatrical movie. So that's cool. And go check that out if you want to learn more about that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but you didn't know that Ben Affleck's been Superman in a movie.
But was he Superman? He played a man who played Superman, so he was playing an actor playing Superman.
Yeah, he played
so
George Reeves.
He was the costume, but he was never Superman.
No, he was never
He
Superman.
was George Reeves.
Yeah, he was cast as George Reeves.
Spitting false facts. Fake news.
He's still the only actor to have worn both suits in the movie. Or in a movie.
That's what you said the first time.
Yeah.
Then you started spilling fake facts. I'm just keeping you on your toes.
All right, so getting into the meat and bones of this thing, the actual real thing we're here for. Starting off from 1978, we have Superman the movie, directed by Richard Donner. This one was made on a budget of $55 million, and it grossed $300.5 million, which is an insane amount of money for the time period. And this one has a 94% Rotten Tomatoes and an 86% audience score.
Yeah, and for Superman, they wanted to get George Reeves again, but they couldn't, so they just changed the first name and dropped the S.
Yeah, it's very weird that the actor is so close because the first one was George Reeves, and then this is Christopher Reeve without the S. So it's very
Same
similar.
same spelling, even no A's in the last names.
Yeah, I'm just gonna burn through notes because most of my notes actually have to do with the plot, so I'll just burn through them. And obviously, I don't need to really. Everyone knows the plot of Superman, right? He shows up. He was born on a different planet. He shows up on Earth. He grows up on a farm. He gets powers and becomes the greatest superhero. Everyone knows that, right? And Lex Luthor's bald. Okay, we're up to
Yes. Oh,
speed.
yes.
We're up to speed. Okay. The opening of this movie is fantastic. It opens with the camera zooming in on the cover of Action Comics, and then like a kid narrating, and he's like, hey, "It's Action Comics with Superman." It's just a really wonderful opening. It's really cool. And the Superman score. Oh my God, is it incredible? Just fantastic and iconic and amazing. And it's just you've heard it, right?
Yes.
The
I'll be
Superman.
honest. I tried to attempt to listen to this when I was at work the other day, but
Okay.
listening doesn't do it justice. So I got to hear the whole beginning, all the way through the opening scene, which I'm sure you're about to cover. I did hear the song, and it was incredible.
Well, my note about the song is as good as this song is, I'm glad they don't do credits at the beginning of movies anymore. Because
Oh my gosh, yes.
it
Same with
takes,
old Disney movies. Like, oh
yeah,
my gosh.
it takes so long to get into it. It's like, Jesus, just pick this up. Because Star Wars was really the movie that stopped that. Because Star Wars was one of the first movies to not have opening credits at the beginning of the movie.
But they just replaced it with
With
a novel.
with the scroll.
Instead of waiting and reading a lot, you just have to wait and read a lot. So
Yeah.
cool.
So the Krypton dying is a really cool scene, like the planet blowing up and everything. But oh my God, it takes so long to get into. Like everything about this movie is really good, but it just takes so long to get into stuff. Because like Jor-El gives like a 10-minute speech about like the tides changing and the moons ripping apart and all this, and he's like, "We gotta send our firstborn to different planets or whatever." And then he's just like, "All right, get on with it."
Yeah, and that was the part where Terrence Stamp was like, you will bow down to me."
Yes, that I should mention that. Jor-El, the opening of this movie is Jor-El banishing Zod and his crew into the Phantom Zone, which then sets up the sequel, Superman 2, because at the time, both these movies were being shot back to back at the same time frame.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. But then the production was getting too out of hand, so they're like, we got to split these up. We can't film two movies at once.
Right.
So the opening of the movie with when they find Clark, as a baby, he's not really a baby, he's like a 4-year-old, but when they find him in the rocket ship and then he lifts the truck, that's a pretty cool scene, pretty neat. Even as a small child, he's lifting up a truck. The part where Clark is, as a teenager, racing a train, like he's on foot running next to the train, it's very, very cool. I like that. There's a really cool scene here where he runs home and he beats the star of the football team, like the quarterback of the football team. It has a really fancy car or something, and he actually beats him home. And they're like, "How'd you get here so fast, Kent?" And he's like, "Oh, I just ran." And they all laugh about it. Pa Kent comes over, his dad, and he gives him this speech about how he doesn't know why his son was put on this earth, but he knows that he's here for a bigger reason, and he's not here to score touchdowns. And then Pa Kent, he dies, and you're like, what? But because he just gave him that speech and said, "Hey, don't you dare score a fucking touchdown in your life," it leads him to become Superman. So if Pa Kent he didn't hate football so much, Superman probably wouldn't have existed. Well, so my next note is, holy shit, it's taken over 50 minutes to see Christopher Reeve. I believe I was like at the 51-minute mark where Christopher Reeve finally shows up in the first.
Well, they really wanted to lay down the story.
I guess it takes forever. It's a doozy. This movie's 143 minutes long too, so that's it's a long movie.
Aren't they all?
The first two are pretty long. I think 3 and 4 are like 90 minutes.
Okay.
Once we get into the Daily Planet, that's the newspaper where Superman works. There's a really interesting scene at the start where it's just like a really hectic newsroom. Everyone's yelling across the room at each other. Lois is like pitching some headline to Perry White, who's in charge of the newspaper, and she reads him the thing, and then she goes, "How many P's are in rapist?" And he goes, "There's only one P in the word rapist." And I thought that was a silly little line. Because it's like this is a children's movie and they're talking about a rapist. It's just like
Well,
weird.
if you would have said two, that'd be a rap it. You know, that making that rap music.
Was rap a thing in 1978? I was honestly wondering about that.
Yes.
When did that song, hip hop to the hippity to the hop to the hip hop, we don't
Is
stop.
that what
That's
you based the beginning of rap off of?
I'm pretty sure that's like one of the first rap songs.
Not necessarily, but
Or
it
that
is
song
in the older
coined,
days.
I think it coined the term rap, maybe. I think that song did.
Well, Rapper's Delight was released in 1979.
I'm pretty sure that was the first song to use the term rap. So my next note is Clark sends half his paycheck to his mom. Golly gee willikers, this guy is such a dandy fella.
Wow, nice guy.
He's a very nice guy. They even say that, like when like Lois overhears him be like, "Yeah, can you send half my paycheck to my mom?" And then she's just like, "Oh my God, this guy's so fucking nice." Clark and Lois, they're walking outside the building and they get held up by a guy with a gun. And Lois doesn't want to give her purse. And Clark's like, just give him the purse or whatever. He's gonna shoot us, Lois. And she's like, no. And the guy ends up shooting. Well, Clark catches the bullet in his hand really fast because he's Superman, but then Clark pretends to faint. He's just like, oh, and then Lois is the one who ends up like having to stand up for Clark. And I just think Christopher Reeve was so perfect for the casting of this because he plays the dual roles perfectly, where he is such just this lovable loser, just schmuck of a guy as Clark. But then you see him as Superman, and you're like, oh my God, this guy could kick the shit out of anyone.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And then there's a scene where he's still talking to Lois, and they're like, he's trying to have a conversation with Lois where he's like trying to ask her to like come out to dinner with him or something. And she's like walking away, trying to like somewhat ignore him. And she walks into the ladies' room and he's about to walk in following her. And then she's like, Clark, this is the women's room. And then he looks at the door and he's like, oh, sorry. And then he like stands outside the door and waits. Then finally, we get the first sequence with Superman where Lois is in a news reporter helicopter and it crashes into a building and it's falling. And Clark, he rips open his shirt to reveal that S, and it's amazing. And then he, gets in the telephone booth and switches into Superman. And like just as soon as he becomes Superman, it's like a mask comes off and he's like a different personality. And just this whole scene is fantastic. Like he catches the airplane in the air, he's lifting it. He catches her out of the air. He's actually flying. It looked for being from 1978, the special effects in this movie look fantastic. And I think they hold up really well. You get the sense that Superman's the real him and like Clark is like the facade in a sense in this movie. So there's a scene right after the helicopter save where this guy is climbing a building using suction cups and he's just robbed a bank. The direction of this movie is so perfect with the camera shots because like you get this close-up shot of him using the suction cups and climbing, and then the camera follows him lifting up his hand to put the suction cup down, and he puts the suction cup right onto Superman's foot. And then the camera like pans up and Superman's standing on the wall and he's just like,
Oh,
hey, how you
man.
doing? And it's just, oh, it's such a good scene. Following that, Superman has an interview with Lois Lane where he lands on her balcony. She's in a nightgown and some lingerie, and they have an interview. It's very fun, very flirty. And there's a line where she says something about Clark not believing in Superman or something, and Superman says, Clark, who's that, your boyfriend? And it's like, I see what you did there, Superman, you sly little fox.
Are you available?
I haven't really talked about Lex Luthor much in this movie, but he basically has this plan that he wants to. His plan is so goddamn goofy. He wants to blow up a bomb. Like, he wants to buy all this real estate land next to California that's in the middle of the desert that nobody wants to buy because it's literally desert land. You couldn't even plant a cactus there. And he wants to blow up a nuclear bomb on his own land that's big enough to separate California from the United States. It would like sink California, and then he and his shitty desert land would be the new West Coast. So he's like, yeah, everyone would want to own a house on my brand new beachfront property, but it's like, but you just blew up a nuclear bomb there. You couldn't live there anymore. So who's gonna buy your who's gonna buy your land?
I mean, that's a great idea.
He has a secret hideout underground where, him and Miss Tessmacher and Otis, who are his two henchmen, they sit down there with him. And Superman, when he's trying to find them, lands in the street and he's surrounded by a bunch of civilians. And he goes, "Excuse me, folks." And then he just starts spinning in a circle really fast and drills down through the ground. I think it's a really cool, fun. Yeah, and then there's the part where Lex Luthor introduces Kryptonite and takes out Superman, and Superman's kind of like, he's groggy and out of it, and he's sitting there, and Miss Tessmacher, she's getting a little handsy with Superman. She's putting her hands all over him, and then she tells him, "Why is it that I can't get it on with the good guys?" And I thought that was a pretty funny line.
It does sound funny.
Why is it I can't get it on with the good guys? So then after that, Lex Luthor, of course, shoots out this missile, which is going for the land that he owns, like I said. And Superman, he convinces Miss Tessmacher to take the kryptonite off of him. And so he gets his powers back and he flies out of there at full speed, goes after the missile. And I think the missile chase sequence is so cool because it's like he's flying behind the missile, he's flying into the flames and stuff, he's catching it. And there's this really funny part where two farmers, they're like standing there and then they look up and see the missile fly by and they're like, huh. And then they look up and see Superman, and they're like, "Ah!" It's a very funny little comical moment. There's a part where some train tracks get taken out by a rock, and so there's a chunk missing, and so Superman lands and uses his body to like cover for the train tracks, so like the train can go over him. And it's so goofy, but I think it only works in the context of like this movie,
Sure.
like in the time frame. He also has to fix a dam at the end of this movie, like a dam broke, and it's very cool because he like uses his super breath to blow the water back, and then uses heat vision to like, solder the dam closed, I guess. But
The
it's
Hoover Dam.
yes, and
The Hoover Dam.
I think this scene is really cool because like you can tell when they released the dam, it's like model work, It looks so fantastic, like great model work. I love seeing cool models in movies because you can always tell, and it always just looks really cool. I love
I thought it was real.
It's not. It's movie magic.
I didn't watch this movie.
Of course, this movie ends with Superman flying around the world in reverse rotation and to reverse time, and it's so cheesy and stupid, and it's the one thing that kind of takes you out of this movie because it's so dumb. Yeah, he just flies like in reverse rotation. It reverses the Earth and it reverses time. But it's because Lois Lane dies. And the one thing Jor-El says at the beginning is never, ever mess with human time or whatever. And he does. And he gets Lois back from the death. But it's just a stupid scene. But Christopher Reeve gives a scream when he's like flying back in time. And it's just like, oh my God, pure agony in like his face. It's just top notch. And that's all I have to say about Superman the movie. I think it's 5 stars. It's a very good movie.
Nice. You want to hear a fact off of Wikipedia that I know?
Sure.
That I just read? The casting of Superman for this movie is quite ridiculous. Before Richard Donner was hired as the director, Robert Redford was offered a large sum, but he felt he was too famous. Burt Reynolds turned down the role. Sylvester Stallone was interested, but nothing came of it. Some other names: Caitlyn Jenner auditioned for the title role. Neil Diamond and Arnold Schwarzenegger both lobbied hard for the role, but were ignored. James Caan.
Wait, Neil Diamond?
James Brolin, Christopher Walken, Nick Nolte. All these people were all considered. It's just a crazy list. Yeah, but Neil Diamond lobbied hard for the role.
That's funny to me that Neil Diamond wanted to be Superman because Michael Jackson wanted to be Spider-Man. So like these two musicians are like, I want to be a superhero.
That would have been cool.
Who do you think would be better, Michael Jackson as Spider-Man or Neil Diamond as Superman? I think Neil Diamond would be better personally.
Probably.
Yeah.
But could you imagine a little Spider-Man going around, flip, hee hee, flip, hee hee? It'd be great.
That would be pretty funny.
But that would be Michael Jackson playing Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Did you know that Marlon Brando was Jor-El? And Marlon Brando, in my personal opinion, has always been a drama queen his whole career.
Yes,
and
me too.
Proving that, he sued Warner Brothers for about $50 million because he felt cheated out of his share of box office profits.
Yeah, he also, when he got hired, he refused to learn any of his lines. Like that was one of his conditions to getting hired. He was like, I'm not going to learn any of your lines. And
it's so fun.
He made them either hold cue cards off set, like so he could read them, or he made them tape like flash notes with lines written on them on props that he could like walk. That's why if you watch the scene, he's always like walking behind stuff, and it's so that he can read his fucking lines.
Wow.
Yeah, dude's I like he's a fine actor, but I think he's overrated. Not worth the trouble.
Yeah. Well, then after the suing, that stopped his footage from being used in Superman 2, which is
Yep.
probably for the better.
I do have a note about
Just
that,
kidding.
but we'll get to it in a little bit. But yeah, moving on.
Yeah.
Of course, next up is from 1981, Superman 2, and this one was directed by Richard Lester. That's right, a different Richard. First one was Richard Donner. This one's Richard Lester. It did have a change in director because Richard Donner and the Salkinds, who were producing the movie, Ela and Alexander Salkind, they were in charge of the whole thing. They clashed over creative control of the movie. They ended up firing Richard Donner, even though he was almost done with making the movie. And so they hired Richard Lester, and Richard Lester, in order to get the director credit, he had to reshoot over 70% of the movie. And because of this whole director change and the circumstances behind it, Margot Kidder refused to come back and shoot more scenes for it. And Gene Hackman, who played Lex Luthor, refused to come back. So all the Lex Luthor scenes in this movie were filmed by Richard Donner, and any ones that were filmed by Richard Lester have a stand-in with just wearing a bald cap.
Interesting.
Yeah. This one was made on a budget of $54 million, which is $1 million less than the first movie, and it grossed $190.4 million, which I think is a pretty significant downturn considering how good the first was. And when you think about like there was 2 movies a year back, in the 70s and 80s. This one has an 82% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 76% audience score, so it's a little bit lower than the first, but I think in some ways it's better than the first. So I'm excited to get into this one. Shall we?
Yeah, do it. Get right into it.
All right, so this movie does the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy opening where it shows scenes from the first movie playing through the opening credits while the music is playing. I counted, it takes almost 10 minutes for the movie to actually start. Like it's the opening 10 minutes is just the recapping the first movie and playing the theme music.
That's crazy.
Yeah, dude, these movies take forever to get into. Right at the opening of this movie, Lois Lane, she goes to Paris, France for a story, and she's on the Eiffel Tower. She sneaks in. The elevator on the Eiffel Tower breaks, and it's like falling down and it's going to crash. Superman, of course, flies in, saves the day at the last second. He catches the elevator in his hand and flies up. I really like in this sequence where when he catches the elevator, he does like a quick little oof. Like, it takes a little effort of him catching it. And I like that they do this in the second movie where they humanize Superman a little bit. He shows a lot more, like when he gets hit, he's like, oh, I felt that, or, things like that, where they humanize him a little more. And I think it really works. And then I wrote, P.S. The elevator explodes in space, but there's no oxygen in space, so there wouldn't be an explosion or fire.
Well,
And then my next note is, oh no, the Phantom Zone is broken. Because so Superman threw the elevator that had the bomb in it up in space, it explodes. The explosion from the elevator happens to explode the Phantom Zone, which just happened to be floating by Earth at this exact moment. And it explodes and it opens, and Zod, Ursa, and Non get released, and they fly to the moon. And this is a very cool scene where Non destroys the Moonlander, and it's very cool, if not a little cheesy, because you can tell it's like cardboard or styrofoam or whatever that they're destroying, but it looks fun. Yeah, it's just a great scene where they're attacking the 2 people that are on the moon. They're like, hey, Houston, we have a problem. And so then Zod and his guys, they think that Houston is the planet that they are going to. It leads to a funny moment. Well, in the scene in the prison where Lex and Otis are in their jail cell, which if they're partners in crime, why would you put them in the same jail cell? Makes no sense to me, but I'm not the warden. I'm not the warden of this prison, so. But yeah, so they're sitting in their jail cell playing a game of chess, and the security guard's walking by and he's telling all the prisoners to turn their lights off. And he's like, Luthor, turn your light off. I'm going to tell you again. And then he opens the cell door and walks in. And as he walks in, Otis and Lex disappear. And it's revealed that Lex put a projector on the wall, and the projector is projecting them sitting there playing chess. And I thought that was a very, very cool scene.
Wow.
My next note is about the scene in Niagara Falls where Lois and Clark are there for covering a story. They're at Niagara Falls, and this kid is on the railing, climbing over the railing, like holding his hands off. And Super Clark is, of course, like, "Hey, you should get down from there, kid. You're gonna fall." And then he's like, "Hey, Lois, I'm gonna go get some hot dogs or whatever." And then as he goes to get hot dogs, the kid falls over the cliff and he's falling down the waterfall. And just like in Spy Kids 2, this kid falls forever. Like the scene goes so long. Like the kid would have died, but whatever. Well, and Superman, of course, comes in, saves the kid, and then leaves without saying a word to Lois. Lois is even like, "Superman, Superman, it's me, it's Lois, it's me." And he just flies off. And then Clark comes back carrying some hot dogs, and she's like, "Clark, Superman was just here." And he's like, "What, Superman? Where?" And then she's like, "Wait a second, why is it every time Superman shows up, you're not here?" She
Uh-oh.
starts to believe he's Superman, and so she just jumps over the cliff into the waterfall without like trying to get him to be Superman, and he doesn't want to reveal himself. So he just lets her fucking fall down this waterfall, and then he ends up saving her by using his powers, but without like her seeing it. He shoots some heat vision onto a branch, and it falls into the river, and she's able to catch it. The cherry on the top of this scene is that when she's like coming to the riverbed and she's climbing out of the water, Clark walks into the river to help her up, and as he lifts her up, he goes, "Oh, oh," and then falls into the river himself, and then she then has to save him from drowning. It's so good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But then after that, Zod, Ursa, and Nan, they all arrive on planet Houston. And when they arrive, Zod lands in the lake, and he's like, "Huh, what a weird texture of this planet or whatever." And then he walks on top of the water like he's Jesus. And there's a fisherman's in there, and he's like, "Oh my God." And then there's a bit where Ursa, she sees a snake on the ground, she picks it up, and the snake ends up biting her, and she's like, "Ow," and flinches. And it's weird because they're kryptonite or they're kryptons, so they wouldn't have like the snake's fangs shouldn't have been able to even hurt her or bite through her skin. So I don't know why she did that, but she ends up using her heat vision and burns the snake up. And then
Maybe it was
Nan,
improv. The
maybe
actor
I don't
got
know.
bit and was like, "Ow!" Like for real.
Well, in Nan, he's the silent, like, big guy of this movie. He doesn't have any lines, but he has a really fun recurring gag where he keeps trying to use his heat vision but can't get it out. Like, it only goes like an inch, and then it's just a recurring gag where he can never burn anything with it. It's pretty fun. Lois finds out that Clark is Superman in this movie, which, I just talked about the Niagara Falls scene where he goes to very great lengths to not reveal his secret to her. In like 10 minutes later, they kind of just blow it up because in the sequence, they're sitting in their hotel room and she's sitting next to the fire and they're like talking or whatever. And Clark trips on the bear skin rug and lands with his hand in the fire. And then he like pulls his hand out and he's like, "Oh, it's fine," or whatever. And she's like, "No, let me see your hand." And then she's like, "Clark, you're not even burned." And then he like takes his glasses off and he's like, "I'm Superman. I should have told you." But it just happens in the most anticlimactic way. And it just feels like, does it even matter? Like, it only advances the plot of this movie specifically because of what happens in the storyline next. And it just feels like by the time we get to the end of this movie, this scene just does not matter. It's really weird. Still fun though.
Very cool.
All right, Zod and his crew, they arrive in a small town and they end up destroying the whole town. And this scene is so much fun because it's all practical effects and they pretty much just blow up everything. Like they send a cop car flying through town and it drives up like a trailer truck and it like goes sideways and crashes through the top of a building and like comes crashing through a bar. And it's just very, very cool and it just looks awesome. And Zod uses some telepathy, which I don't know why they have telepathy, but he lifts some old guy up in the air and he's like dangling him in the air. And this kid comes up and he's like, "Please, can you let my dad down?" And he drops him from like 30 feet in the air and the guy lands in a hay patch. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Oh boy, a hay patch.
Superman, he takes Lois to the Fortress of Solitude and he ends up getting rid of his superpowers. Like he completely gets rid of them just so he can get laid with Lois Lane. Maybe the dude should have a TV in the Fortress of Solitude because that way he would have seen that Zod at the same exact moment was on the news being like, "Hey, if Superman doesn't show up, I'm going to take over the White House and become ruler of the earth, and you can all bow down to me. But because Superman's too busy, getting his tallywhacker taken care of, he doesn't even know that Zod's there.
Oh my gosh, he's against Tallywhacker, all tallywhacked.
Yeah. And it's like Zod, he ends up just taking over Earth, and it's great because he like flies to Mount Rushmore, and he turns one of the faces into Ursa, one of the faces into Non, one of the faces into himself, and he destroys the fourth face. And then he then flies over to the White House, and there's a full-fledged scene of them attacking the White House and the Secret Service trying to fight them off, and nothing can be done. The army shows up, they all get taken out, and then Zod literally makes the president bow down to him on his hands and knees, and like he just takes over. It's fucking awesome. It is such a cool scene. Yeah. After that, Clark, he has no superpowers anymore. He's a regular human for the first time in his life. Him and Lois Lane go to a diner. He goes to the bathroom. Lois is sitting there, and this guy comes in and sits right next to Lois and is hassling her. And Clark is like, "Hey, that's my seat, buddy." And the guy's like, "Oh, fuck you, buddy." And Clark goes, "Excuse me, sir, would you care to step outside?" And the guy ignores him. And so the Clark puts his hand on his shoulder and says it again, "Excuse me, sir, would you care to step outside?" And the guy proceeds to just kick the shit out of Clark Kent. Like, I mean, he really he knocks him down, he punches him, he gets a bloody nose, but Clark Kent pulls a tub thumper because he gets knocked down, gets up again. Nothing is going to keep him down.
Very cool.
Yeah. And this is a cool scene because he's like, "Oh, my blood. I've never seen my blood," or whatever. And so Superman is like, "Oh no, I have to get my powers back. I'll do whatever it takes." And so he ends up going back to the Fortress of Solitude and tries to do anything he can to get his powers back. And it's kind of like, why'd you even give her your powers in the first place? It was literally like 10 minutes ago. And here we are again with a scene that ends up feeling like it doesn't matter. His first confrontation, he ends up going to fight Zod, and he has his powers back, but he's not at full strength. He's only like half powered, even if that. And so this is a really good scene where they're just fighting all throughout Metropolis, through the whole town, and like Superman's trying to just do everything he can to stop Zod and save people. Like there's a scene where Zod throws a bus at him, and he has to catch the bus and like save it without like hurting the people inside the bus. Superman gets thrown through a Marlboro truck, and the truck like explodes open. It's very cool. Zod gets thrown into a Coke sign, and the Coke sign smashes and shoots out sparks and shit. Like just some very, very good prop work in this scene. It's incredible. And then there's a sequence in the same scene where Zod uses his heat breath or his super breath to like, blow everything around, and the whole city, cars, pedestrians, everything's getting blown around. And it's just such a silly sequence. Why I like this movie so much, and why in some regards I think it's better than the first, because it's just got really great prop work and special effects and just silly moments and stuff, and I really like it. We get to a scene where Superman, Zod, Lex Luthor, Lois, they're all in the Fortress of Solitude. He's tricked them and brought them there. And he basically is like, "Hey, I'm going to give you my powers. I'm Superman. I'm surrendering. Zod, you won. You get my powers," or whatever. So he gets him into the chamber. He basically steals Zod's powers for himself and makes himself back to full strength. And then Zod's powerless. And there's the part with the iconic S-throw where Non tries to fly at Superman, and Superman rips the S off his chest and throws it, and it turns into this giant cellophane like thing that wraps around Non, and he falls, and it's so fucking goofy.
Oh dang!
Yeah,
Sounds cheesy.
Yeah, they've made fun of it on Family Guy before, so I think people have seen it. But like, so Superman gets his powers back. He tricks Zod. The score starts to swell, like the music kicks in. Superman tosses Zod to the side. He throws Non into a pit to his fucking death. Lois kicks the shit out of Ursa. She falls into the pit, and they murder all the villains in the span of 5 minutes. This movie's so good. It's really good. And then it ends with Superman kissing Lois Lane so that she loses her memory and doesn't remember that he's Superman, which again, why even have her find out he's Superman if it's just going to change at the end?
Because he wanted a boner as Superman, but with no powers.
I guess so. It's just the last scene of the movie is Clark goes back to the diner that the guy where he got beat up earlier in the movie is. And, now he's full strength again. And so he goes in and the guy's sitting there and the guy's like, "Hey, I don't want any trouble. I just fixed this place, take this outside. Well, he ends up picking up the guy and he puts him on the counter. He spins him around a few times. He throws him through the wall or whatever. And then Clark pays the owner of the diner and he's like, this should take care of the damages. I'm sorry about this. And then the guy kind of just like, what the hell? And Clark pushes his glasses up his nose and goes, I've been working out, and then makes like a hand motion with his arm.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's fucking great. And then the movie ends with Superman flying out to space, which I only mention this because we reference it. I'll reference it later on, but the movie ends with him flying out to space, and then the credit comes up saying, "Coming soon, Superman 3."
Nice. You mentioned the Marlboro truck. The Philip Morris Company paid $40,000 for their cigarette to appear in the film. So they made Lois Lane a chain smoker in the film.
They did, yes.
Did she smoke in the first one?
She does smoke in the first one, but in the second one,
she does not smoke in the comics.
It is very heavy in the second one.
And then obviously the truck, like you mentioned. So yeah, they paid a hefty amount for product placement.
It's one of those things where it's very heavy on the product placement and you notice it right away. But at the same time, it doesn't take away from the scene at all. Because
that's good.
When I notice it, I always think of like, well, this was the 70s and, cigarettes could advertise then. Whereas like you could never do that now because it's not legal for them to advertise like that. So,
right.
Superman 2, my final thoughts. I also give this one 5 stars. I think it's just as good as the first, even though there's some differences it's more comedic and stuff, but I think it's just as good. And I like that he has a real villain to fight in Zod.
Nice.
Even if they just does the thing where it's a villain with the same powers. Still cool though. I like it. And then next up is technically Superman 3, but before that, from 2006, there was Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. So basically, Warner Brothers gave Richard Donner, they're like, hey, Marlon Brando died, and there's no more legal issues with his stupid performance because he sued the company or whatever. So he's dead, and the family's letting us do whatever we want with his footage, so you can redo Superman 2, your cut, with however you want it. So he redid his own cut of the movie in 2006. He had to use some test footage and stuff to make it like fit right, but he made his own cut, and he got to bring Jor-El back as, Marlon Brando is Jor-El from the footage and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. I only have a few notes about this one because it is basically just the same movie, but a few differences. This one has a really snappy opening, I think. It opens with like them recapping the first movie, but then also a different point of view from like the Jor-El scene of him banishing Zod and them. Like it's basically the same sequence from the first movie, but like different, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, it's very interesting how it does. But the scene, there's a scene where Lois Lane is at the Daily Planet and she's starting to suspect that Clark is Superman. And to test this, she literally just jumps out the window of the Daily Planet and she's falling, and we get to see Superman. Clark like looks out the window to watch her fall, and then Clark uses super speed to run outside, down the building and down the stairs outside, and then he uses his super breath to hold Lois in the air, so like she's falling slower, and then she won't hit the ground, and then he uses his heat vision to hit an awning. The awning falls open. He lets her go with his super breath. She falls, hits the awning, and then lands on like a fruit cart, and then she looks up and Clark's still hanging out the window like, Lois, what'd you do?
Oh, Superman.
Yeah, very fun. And then the scene where Lois finds out that Clark is Superman, I think is way more well done in this version. It's like I had said in the first one, he falls and his hand lands in some fire, and it's pretty dumb. Well, in this one, Lois is like, you know what, Clark? I really damn well think that you're Superman, and I'm gonna figure it out for real. And then she pulls out a gun from her purse, and then Clark's like, whoa, 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 Lois, what are you doing? You're gonna shoot me? And she's like, no, I'm gonna shoot Superman. And then she shoots, and then so you hear the gunshot, and then of course nothing happens. And so then Superman, he takes his glasses off and he's like, Lois, you do realize that you would have just killed a man if Clark wasn't Superman? She goes, nope, I used blanks.
Got him.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think it's way better than the actual Superman 2 scene. And then there's a really cool scene in this movie where Superman and Lois are having a talk, and she's like, isn't it annoying being Clark all the time? And like, looking like an idiot. And he says that he actually has fun being Clark Kent because he gets to make a goof of himself and gets to have fun. And I really like that because it shows that Superman, even though he's like the most powerful being on Earth and he's like the world's greatest super or whatever, he's not taking himself too seriously, just having a good time.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. But
I mean,
yeah.
he's got a little curl in his hair. He has some fun.
Yes, agreed. So yeah, I think overall this is a really fun movie. It's cool to see a different cut of Superman 2, but I would overall give this one 4 stars. I think it does a lot of things better than the original Superman 2, but in some ways it does things. I like the comedic elements of Superman 2, and there's still comedic stuff in Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut, but just some of it, I don't know. It's wishy-washy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
This one has an 84% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, so it actually is rated higher than the original Superman 2.
Nice.
Should I move on to Superman 3?
Yeah, do it.
All right, Superman 3 from 1983. This one was again directed by Richard Lester, and this one was made on a budget of $39 million, and it ended up grossing $80.2 million. So quite a significant downturn from this series is taken. This one is, I think, most well known for having Richard Pryor in it as the bad guy of the movie. Yeah, let's jump right into it because this one has the worst opening of the franchise yet. Like it opens with just a bunch of slapstick like comedy stuff going on. There's like a toy that winds up and it goes across the street and a car has to swerve and it hits a telephone pole and the telephone pole hits and hits a different thing and then that thing and it's like that and Superman has to stop all of it. But I usually like slapstick stuff, but it doesn't work in this movie. And especially like when you look at the tone of the first 2 Superman movies and then you go into this one, you're like, this is totally different. It's
Right.
too wacky.
Like, why did they go this direction?
Exactly. It's a straight up comedy movie and it doesn't work. Richard Pryor, his plan in this movie is that his job isn't paying him enough, so he finds out that every person at his work gets paid a half a cent, but because you can't pay someone half a cent, they just round it off people's checks, and so they don't get that half a cent. And so he invents a computer program that collects all those half pennies into a checking account, and then he can take that money and that's his money. And it's like, yeah, it seems like a fine plan, but it just so dumb. I hate it.
So stupid.
So stupid. They actually do it in the movie Office Space. That's their plan in that movie too. And they talk about, they're like, you ever seen Superman 3? We're gonna do that. Then so there's a plot line in this movie where because of Margot Kidder having issues with Richard Lester from Superman 2 and how she didn't want to return, because of Richard Donner. So they made the choice to make her role significantly smaller in this movie. She's literally only in like 2 scenes. And so they had Clark go back to Smallville where he grew up, and Lana Lane is there, who is his high school girlfriend. And so when he arrives into Smallville, there's a burning chemical fire. And I think this is a really fun scene to introduce Superman to Smallville because he shows up, he changes into his costume into the back of a police car. Like he gets in, the cop's like, huh? And he looks out and Superman just runs away and he's like, wait, when did Superman get here? It's really fun. But the payoff is kind of dumb though, because it's like Superman trying to put out this chemical fire and he's like, I can't do anything because the chemicals will explode. So he goes to the lake and he uses his breath to freeze the lake, and then he picks the lake up and drops it onto the fire. It looks really lame. Like, I don't know. It's just dumb.
I mean, this movie sounds amazing so far.
We'll get to it.
I'm kidding.
So the actress who plays Lana, I wish I would have remembered her name because I can't remember it off the top of my head, but she would actually go on to play Martha Kent in Smallville. So she played Lana, Clark's love interest in this movie, and then she plays Clark's mom in Smallville. I think that's pretty cool.
O'Toole.
That's what it is, yes. Lana's son is taking a nap in a cornfield or some shit, and like there's a combine harvester about to like drive over him and kill him. And so Superman stops the combine with his hand and then like saves the kid. I think that's a really cool little scene in this movie. And my next note I wrote is, I seriously hate Richard Pryor's performance in this movie. The story of Clark in Smallville is really interesting, and it would have made for a better movie. But Pryor detracts from this so much, and he muddles the plot because, like, every scene he's in, it's just him being like this bumbling idiot and being like, "Oh, I don't get paid enough, and I gotta type computers and numbers and stuff and letters," and Like it's just so fucking dumb. And it's like it's clearly a cash grab because they only put Richard Pryor in this movie because he was popular at the time and his comedies were making money. And so they were just trying to like, you know, cash in on him. And to that effect, there's like a scene where Richard Pryor is talking to the main bad guy, whose name is slipping my mind, but they clearly just wanted him to be like a knockoff Lex Luthor. But he's like talking to them on top of a skyscraper, and then he's wearing some skis, and he falls off the top of the building on skis, and skis down the side of the building, and then flies off the awning, and then lands on the sidewalk. And he's like, "Whew!" It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in a movie.
Jeez. Yeah, like you said, they just wanted to cash in on him. Yeah, after an appearance he made on The Tonight Show telling Johnny Carson, he said he enjoyed seeing Superman 2. So the Snell kinds were eager to cast him as a predominant role in the third film. And he accepted $5 million salary to appear in the film.
What's sad
$5
about
million
that?
down in 1981. That's good money.
That is really good money. But what's sad about that is if you were such a big fan of this movie, maybe you should take less money and take 2 million and put 3 million back into the budget and make this movie better. If you actually love the franchise, don't be like, hey, I liked seeing this movie in theater, so I'm gonna come in and literally be the one thing that ruins this movie. I don't think it was Richard Pryor's intention to do that. Like it's clearly the director telling him like, hey, do this, you know. But
Yeah.
just the fact that to be the guy who's like, yeah, I like that thing, and then come in and be the worst part of it, I don't know. But Superman ends up going evil in this movie because Gus Gorman, who's Richard Pryor's character, he's supposed to make synthetic kryptonite, but he puts in the wrong chemicals and he makes red kryptonite. And red kryptonite turns Superman evil. And this is the best thing in this movie. Like, as bad as this movie is, this scene is fucking great. Because Superman goes evil and he like flies to Italy and he turns the Leaning Tower of Pisa into the normal Tower of Pisa because he gets it to stand straight up again. And then he's sitting in a bar and in costume, like it's Superman in his costume, just getting fucking hammered drunk. He's got like a 5 o'clock shadow. His hair's all tuffled and he's like yelling at patrons in the bar. And they're like, Superman's a bum. Get out of here, Superman, you fucking idiot. And he's like yelling at people and they kick him out of the bar and he's like walking down the street with a bottle in his hand and it's amazing. But he goes to a junkyard and his personality ends up separating where it's evil Superman and then Clark Kent Superman, and they have a fight and it's Clark Kent fighting Superman. And I can't even like do it justice with words how good this scene is. It's incredibly well done because it's the same actor, you know, and
Yeah.
I don't know how they did it in 1983. That's all I'll say. There's a part where Superman throws Clark into like the trash or the car compactor and he crushes him, but then Clark gets out of it and then the fight ends with Clark choking Superman out with his bare hands until he dies, and then he absorbs Superman back into him and he becomes, you know, one again. But just a scene of Clark Kent choking Superman out with his bare hands, just strangling him. I don't think you would ever see that in a movie nowadays. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's crazy. But the movie ends with Superman fighting a computer, and this movie sucks. That's my last note. Yeah, so this one has a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 23% audience score. So a very large gap from the 90 and 80s of the first two.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very, very poorly done movie. And I think the only reason it's so highly rated, like in the 20s, is because of the evil Superman stuff. Because if you would take that scene out, I think this is a 5% movie at best.
Jeez.
Yeah. He fights a computer at the end. Like,
good thing that was in there, I guess.
yeah, it's the only redeeming quality. Well, next up, I did not take notes for this because I did not want to rewatch this movie. And technically, it's not really a Superman movie, but it's in the same franchise, so that's why I'm counting it. It's Supergirl from 1984. It's directed by Janat Sawark, I believe is how you say her name. And Supergirl is played by Helen Slater. This one was made on a budget of $35 million and it grossed $14.3 million. It has a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 26% audience score. So this was just a bomb, both critically and financially. Yeah, I have seen this before, and I give it 1 star. Oh, I give Superman 3 1 star, by the way, if that wasn't clear. But Supergirl, I also give 1 star. It's the worst Superman-related movie ever. And Christopher Reeve was supposed to have a cameo in it because Supergirl plays his sister. He realized, hey, this movie kind of sucks, so I'm actually gonna just decline being a part of it. I don't want to be in it anymore. And so how they tied it into his movie is they put a picture of him as Superman in the movie. And so it's her being like, oh, that's my cousin or my brother or whatever. So like it's just a picture. But this movie sucks and it's terrible. And Supergirl fights a witch at the end.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
Horrible.
it's real bad. So I just wanted to
Do you
mention
think
that really quick.
Christopher Reeve? Do you think Christopher Reeve would receive payment for his picture being there?
Oh, he probably had to, if I would assume,
That's
because
cool.
I think he was a producer on it maybe for a while before he backed out. I don't know.
Now
how it
that
worked,
is Marlon Brando's style of acting.
but- yeah. Next up in the Superman franchise, the last one with Christopher Reeve, it's Superman 4: The Quest for Peace from 1987. This one was directed by Sidney J. Furie on a budget of 17 million and it grossed 36.9 million. This one has a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 16% audience score. So of the four mainline Superman movies, it is the lowest rated of the franchise. But I have some nice things to say about it.
Oh yeah.
I do, yes. So I think this one overall as a movie is better than Superman 3. We'll get into it because it's like this movie opens with a space shuttle launching and Superman saves the space shuttle, which is just a really cool opening because it doesn't do the whole thing where like the first three, open, they have the really long openings with the credits and all that shit. This one just gets right into it. There's a space shuttle, there's a malfunction, he saves it, he saves the day. And that's the stuff I love in this franchise is just Superman doing stuff like that, just helping people out. It's cool. After that opening sequence, it's Clark on the farm in Smallville, and he's looking rugged AF. He's on the farm. He's got this flannel jacket on. He's holding a baseball bat, and the guy is like, "Hey, Clark, let's pitch a couple balls." And he's like, "Oh, I was never good at sports." And the guy pitches a ball, and he misses. Well, then the guy leaves, and Clark, as the guy drives away, Clark tosses the baseball up in the air and then hits it, and the baseball shoots off into space. Very cool.
Nice.
Well, then we get Lenny Luthor, who's Lex Luthor's nephew in this movie. He's played by John Cryer, who would go on to be in Two and a Half Men. And he also plays Lex Luthor in the Supergirl TV show. So he came back around to the franchise too. But so when he shows up in the first scene, comes to break Lex Luthor out of prison. And he shows up in this fucking awesome car. The car is the coolest thing ever. It's remote controlled. You can drive with a remote control. It has speakers all around the outside of it, just blaring music. It has Lenny's name on the side, painted on. It's got all these neon lights and cool fins and stuff. It really makes you wonder, his car is so cool. Why does he willingly drive it off a cliff and blow it up in this exact scene that he shows up in? He shows up there and it's to break Lex out of prison, but then he just blows up his car. And it's like, well, why? Just drive away. There's a scene where Superman goes to a Superman museum, and I think this is really cool. It's a really nice touch. The whole museum is just filled with a Superman costume, pictures of him saving the day, his fight with Zod, all this cool stuff. And it reminds me of the Flash Museum from the comic books, because DC comic books, Flash is the superhero who, in his hometown, there's a complete museum about him and everything. I thought it was cool.
Nice.
So I really like the premise of this movie too. It starts with this kid, and he sends a letter to Superman and basically is like, "Hey, Superman, can you get rid of all the nuclear weapons on the Earth? Because I don't want to see nukes kill people." And so Superman goes through this whole crisis of do I get rid of the nukes? Do I not do anything? Like I said, I wouldn't interfere in humans' business or whatever. It's just a really cool idea in theory. I love the premise of this, and they do the whole Superman tells Lois he's Clark Kent thing again, only for Clark to again reverse it with another kiss. It's got to fuck with Lois's mind at some point, you'd think, right? Because he's like, "Hey, I'm Superman. I'm telling you this because I don't know what to do. Should I get rid of the nukes and help this kid, or should I not do anything?" And she's like, "Oh, you're Superman? That's crazy, blah, blah, blah." And then he's like, "All right, your memory's gone again. Thanks for helping."
All right.
It's crazy. Superman ends up going to the United Nations, and I think it's really cool when he shows up and they're like, "Oh, Superman, you can't speak on the United Nations floor without a nation that's willing to sponsor you." And so Superman's like, "Okay, would any nation be willing to sponsor me?" And every single nation lifts their hand up, and he gives a smile, and it's like, hell yeah, every nation should sponsor him because he saves the world, no matter who you are. then he gives a speech and he's like, I've lived on this planet my whole life and I may not be a human, but this planet's my home too. And so I'm getting rid of all nuclear weapons. He flies to nation by nation and gathers all the nukes up in a giant net, just a giant fishing net. And he flies out into space and he throws all the nukes into the sun and blows it up. All the nukes right on the sun.
Thank you, son.
Yeah, which I feel like would maybe destroy the sun, but I'm not a scientist.
I don't think
so.
So I think the sun is too sunny.
I guess. Yeah, I don't know how the sun works. If anyone knows how the sun works, email in. So then creating the Nuclear Man. The Nuclear Man is the villain of this movie. We get introduced about halfway through. And so basically Lex Luthor goes to the Superman Museum. He steals a piece of Superman's hair, which in the museum, they have a one piece of Superman's hair that's holding up 1,000-pound weight or something like that to show how strong Superman is. So they end up stealing the piece of hair. Lex uses the piece of Superman's hair with his own DNA, mixes them together, and creates the Nuclear Man. And the Nuclear Man is so goofy and cheesy. It's just like a guy with poofy hair, and he's got just like glowing orange gold skin, and his fingernails grow really, really long, and he's just weird looking. It's at least a villain. So and then Superman has a fight with Nuclear Man, of course. And I think the fight scene is really fun. The special effects, though, are not very good in this movie. And of course, it is because the budget was so small, but just I don't know, they look really shitty. Superman getting frozen though is really cool, even if it looks dumb. Like Nuclear Man freezes him in like a capsule of ice, and it just looks like an ice picture put over Superman, but it's cool in premise. Nuclear Man causes a volcano to erupt during this fight, and like the volcano is just erupting and shooting lava everywhere. And Superman, what he does to stop the volcano is he uses his laser vision to cut the top off of a mountain, and then he turns the mountain upside down and plugs the top of the volcano.
Oh my gosh, that's genius.
Yeah, just stupid stuff like that. It just makes this movie fun, and like that's why I think people hate on it, because it is bad, but it's fun. It's a lot more fun than Superman 3. Superman, there's a scene where he shows up to this place and there's all these people speaking different languages to him, and Superman is able to speak all the different languages that all these people are talking to him. And I thought that was a really cool, like, little touch of this movie, is like, yeah, Superman would recognize all languages of the world, wouldn't he? You think? Like,
But that doesn't make sense how he'd know all different languages.
because he's Superman. He would study.
Oh, because he's Superman. Got it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
He probably didn't even have to study. It's just one of his people's traits is he can just understand every language. He can probably talk to dogs.
I bet he could. So my next note is the flying scenes in this movie are absolutely atrocious. It is literally a decade after the first movie, and the effects look like they came a decade before the first movie, if you know what I mean. Like the flying scenes in the first one look fantastic, and it makes you really like, wow, a man is flying. And then you look at this one and you're like, that guy's hanging on a rope. Or even if he's not on a rope and he's just laying on the floor or something. I don't know. It's terrible.
They spent all their dollars before that scene.
Then he has no way of stopping the Nuclear Man, so he ends up trapping the Nuclear Man in an elevator, and he like crushes the elevator, and then he takes him and throws him onto the moon, and then so they have this giant fight on the moon, and it's actually pretty cool. As cheesy as it is and as stupid as the set looks, it's pretty cool that they're fighting on the moon. Superman's still just getting the shit kicked out of him until finally he blocks the sun with like, I don't remember what he uses, if he uses a meteor or something, but he holds something up and he blocks out the sun, which saps the Nuclear Man from his powers, and he's able to destroy the Nuclear Man. In summation, this movie is very clearly, I think, pretty bad, but overall I think it's a lot better than the third, because at least Superman is the main focus of this movie. He's not a secondary character, and he gets to fight a real villain. And like the third is just Richard Pryor, and he fights a computer at the end, so he doesn't get to punch anything. Where in this one, he gets to actually punch and fight and stuff. So I think in that aspect, it is a much better movie than the third, because at least he's Superman.
And I think Christopher Reeve helped write this one.
He did, yeah. He came up with the story of it, of getting rid of the nukes and stuff.
Yeah, his first bit.
After the making of it, and it was so poorly received, he did express regret in making it, and he said that he wished he wouldn't have done it. If he would have done it, he would have wanted a higher budget or something. He wanted more creative control and stuff.
Makes sense.
So overall, I give this one 2 stars out of 5. I don't think it's great, but it's not terrible either.
I give every movie on this list 0 stars.
Wow, so rude.
After Superman 4, the Salkin's next movie
Salkinds, yes,
was Santa Claus the movie.
yes, with Dudley Moore because they originally wanted Dudley Moore to be in Superman 3, but for whatever reason he turned it down or whatever, so they made it was Richard Pryor or something like that.
And then all of a sudden, Santa Claus the movie. How is
And
it?
it's actually pretty decent, but uh it was fun because we were sitting there watching it and the credits started and it said the Salkinds production and we both were like, wait, the Salkinds, they did Superman.
Nice.
Yeah. And I like Dudley Moore. He's goofy. All right, so moving on to the last movie on our list. This is Superman Returns from 2006. This was directed by Bryan Singer on a budget of $223 million, and this one grossed $391.1 million. So didn't do all that well financially.
No, not really.
And this one has a 74% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 61% audience score. All right, so Superman Returns actually continues on from the Christopher Reeve franchise. It takes place after Superman 2, whereas if you remember, I said Superman 2 ends with him flying off into space. Well, Superman Returns picks up with him having just come back from being out in space for 5 years. Like he just flew off into space and didn't come back for 5 years. So this one,
it just disregards 3 and 4 because they were bad.
yep, it disregards 3 and 4, yeah.
Okay.
And so it has Brandon Routh taking over the role of Superman, and I think he does really good in this movie. He looks a lot like Christopher Reeve, and he portrays the character well, considering it is the same Superman from the Christopher Reeve franchise.
Yeah, Ralph was actually signed by his manager several years earlier due to his resemblance to Christopher Reeve.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and this was Brandon Routh's like first big role because he was pretty much a nobody when he got this role.
Yeah, I never heard of him.
I had never heard of him either at the time. He's in tons of stuff I like nowadays, but yeah, at the time I didn't know who he was. So I'll jump right into notes. My first one is that I like that this movie is a continuation of the Reeve series, but did they really need to keep the opening credits in space? It's long and boring, and the galaxy and black hole stuff they added looks cheesy. It goes back to the openings of the first two with very long credits in space, and it takes a long time.
More of those awesome credits.
They go for so long. But then getting into the actual opening of the movie, it opens with Lex Luthor, and he's married some super old lady for her money. He's like sitting in the room with her as she's dying, and her entire family's like out in the hallway, just like pounding on the door, just being like, "Don't marry this fucking guy. He's a crook. Don't sign away your life." And then as she's dying, she literally signs her will over to Lex Luthor. So he inherits all her money, her house, everything. And he takes everything away from the family.
Oh my gosh, that's Kevin Spacey, isn't it?
It is Kevin Spacey, yeah. But that's not important because during this scene, there's 2 dogs that are French kissing.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So then the movie turns to Ma Kent on the farm. The direction is fantastic because it shows Martha Kent on the farm, and it does some flashbacks to like Clark as a teenager and him like running in the field and learning his powers and all this. And then it cuts to a comet hitting the cornfield and landing out in the field. And Martha goes out there, and Superman's back. But it's like, just get to some action. We don't need all this. It's Superman, you know?
Yeah, we already know what Superman is.
Exactly. It's like, just get to it already. And again, this is another thing. I'm going to mention this later on, but this is another Superman movie that has no villain. There's nobody for him to punch or do anything with. It's just Lex Luthor, and makes it a little bit boring when you know nothing can happen. And they also really lead into the whole sepia tone thing really quick because this whole movie has this weird sepia tone to it where it's just got like this weird tint, like an orange tint throughout the whole movie, and it never goes away.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really annoying. Well, then Lex, he has a train set and he's in like some basement or whatever, and the chick that's with him, I believe her name is Kitty, but that name I might be misremembering, but she goes, "Wow, that's really something, Lex." And he goes, "Wait a second." And so then there's a pause, and then she goes, "Wow, that's really something, Lex."
Yeah, it's Kitty Kowalski.
Okay, yeah. Also, Cal Penn, you mentioned him earlier in the episode. He is in Superman Returns, which I was a big fan of Cal Penn at the time because like Harold and Kumar was out and like I liked him as an actor, and so I was excited because I was like, oh, Cal Penn's in the new Superman movie. He has not a single line of dialogue throughout the entire movie.
He's kind of like non, I guess.
Yeah, he just literally just stands in the background. It's so weird to have an actor of like because Cal Penn, I think he's a famous actor, right? People know him.
Yeah, but what was he then?
I think so because like Harold and Kumar was out already, and that was his biggest role.
Oh, I suppose, yeah, he was in Van Wilder. Oh, I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know how much he talked. He was in Malibu's Most Wanted, Dude, Where's My Car? Sorry, he was in Dude, Where's My Party? Never heard of it.
I've actually heard of it. I've never seen it though. They did a lot of those type of movies where it's like, dude, where's my something?
Sure, he was in Son of the Mask. All prior to Superman.
Just weird that he doesn't have a single role, I guess, or line. And again, like Superman the movie, I think Lex's plan is really fucking stupid in this movie because he went to the Fortress of Solitude and stole some crystals from Superman. And so he basically wants to use the crystals to create a new landmass that he owns and can charge expensive rent for, but it'd be a fucking crystal island thing in the middle of the ocean, and it's the dumbest fucking idea I've ever heard. Because, like, if you remember in the first one, he wants to shoot a missile that will destroy California, and then he'll own a giant desert that everyone's going to live in. But it's like, why would anyone live there? It's still a desert. And then this one, he wants to make a crystal island in the middle of the ocean that would sink the United States. And he's like, yeah, and everyone's going to want to live on it. No one's going to want to live on it, you fucking idiot.
Well, I mean, does Lex Luthor ever have a good idea? Even in the comics, like, or
In the
is he just
comics,
like,
yes.
okay,
He's one of the
I just,
smartest in the comic books. He's one of the smartest people in the world. Like that's the reason he can go up against Superman because like he's so smart and he can make these like he has his power suit and he can make these inventions and these plans and stuff that usually trip up Superman for a minute. Whereas like in the movies, he's just like, yeah, I really like real estate, but I'm just gonna blow up an island and then force people to live on it or something. Like it makes no sense in these movies.
right. Well, even talking about the future, even like in Smallville, isn't he like not the greatest bad guy?
Lex Luthor in Smallville is pretty great, if I remember
Okay,
correctly. I
what
never
about the newer
finished.
ones?
Lex Luthor isn't well in the DCEU. It's Jesse Eisenberg, and I think honestly, it's the worst Lex Luthor.
Okay, we'll talk about all that later. I was just curious your quick
Yeah,
thoughts.
that's a separate franchise. We'll do that one day.
Oh, of course.
So the first actual Superman scene in this movie is a really fun scene, I think. There's a space shuttle and it's on the top of an airplane and the airplane's going to fly and then the space shuttle is going to take off from the airplane. The shuttle's like malfunctioning and it can't take off from the airplane, and so basically Superman just shows up out of nowhere and he severs the space shuttle from the airplane and he helps the space shuttle take off. He even carries it up to space and lets it go. As he turns around, the airplane lost one of its thrusters or something, and it's just spinning out of control, flying it down to Earth. Then we get a zoom down, and on Earth, there's a baseball game going on. Well, Superman flies down there really fast. He's catching the airplane. The airplane starts to buckle as he catches it, but he stops it from, breaking, and he lands it on the baseball diamond, and then he goes in the airplane and he's like, hey everybody, I hope everyone's good. And of course the scene I think gets ruined at the end because Lois is of course on the plane and it flusters Superman and he acts like a goof for a second. And then also, side note, I saw this movie in theaters as a kid and I saw it in 3D because 3D was big at the time. And I remember the scene vividly because there's a part where the airplane goes into orbit when they get up to space and all the things in the airplane are like floating. And I remember it being like the first ever movie I saw in 3D and I thought that was cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, but I think 3D now is stupid.
Well,
Hurts my eyes. My next note is Frank Langella is amazing as Perry White. I think he is the best casted person in this movie. The chemistry between Routh and Bosworth, Kate Bosworth as Clark and Lois, it's nowhere near Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder. Like it just feels forced and awkward in this movie. Like any scene they're together, I don't know if it's Routh or if it's Bosworth. I don't know. Like maybe they just didn't gel, but something about them too. Every scene they're in, I'm just like, this does not work. I think the casting director could have done a better job. but I think they only got casted because they look like, their counterparts from the 70s and 80s.
Right.
So visually, I think this movie is a great continuation of the Christopher Reeve franchise. Specifically, there's a bit where Superman is floating in space and he's like looking over the earth and he's listening to like all these different things going around the world, like because he can use his super hearing. He like can tune in to certain things where he's hearing it, but so then he like flies and can go save people. But I don't know. I think like stuff like that really works in this movie, like all the visual stuff. But the thing that kills this movie for me is the characters and the fact that it's just so boring every time they're doing anything. But after he is listening to everything while he's up in space, he hears some crimes happening, so he flies down, and there's this guy robbing a bank or some shit, and he's got a minigun, and he's using the minigun, and he's like shooting Superman. All the bullets are just bouncing off him, and he just walks up, and the minigun runs out of bullets, and Superman's standing there, and the guy this is really cool. The guy pulls out his handgun from his pocket and shoots Superman face, like right to his face. The bullet zooms in on Superman's eye. You watch the bullet hit his eyeball and it just flattens against his eyeball and falls to the ground. And the guy's like looks down at the bullet, then looks up, and Superman gives him this like little smirk, and he's just like, "You're done."
Oh my god.
Yeah, I think it's the best thing in the movie. And I remember being in the trailer and just being like, wow, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
I'll probably YouTube that part.
Yeah, you should. There's a part where after he's stopping all these crimes, like they're showing some news reports on the TV, and one of the reporters name drops Gotham. And I thought that was kind of cool. Nice little nod. And there's the scene where Superman is flying with Lois, and it's supposed to be a romantic scene like in the original movie, like where he's holding her hand and they're flying together. But I don't know, this one feels so saccharine and so forced, and it just feels like you're watching a couple do nothing on screen. It's weird. My next note is Cal Penn is wasted in this movie. Dude has 0 lines. All the stuff on the boat is really boring and dull, and it takes forever to get into. Like, only an hour into the movie, Lois Lane and her kid, I forgot to mention that Lois Lane is a kid. They go onto the boat, Lex Luthor's yacht that he got from that old lady, and it's so boring. And they just sit there, and all they do is talk, and it takes forever. There's a part where Lois Lane, they're trying to get into her computer at work, and it's her boyfriend James Marsden, who's Cyclops from the X-Men movies, and then Clark is there, and they're trying to get in her computer, but there is a password, and so the guy's like, oh, I'll try my name, I'll try the kid's name, blah blah blah, and Clark goes, you should try Superman, and then he types in the password Superman, and it works, and it's like, Superman's a terrible password, and it's just so cheesy.
It truly is.
Lois's son, his name is Jason. He's playing piano on the boat, and the bad guy is about to hit his mom in the face with his gun. And so he pushes the piano across the room, and it smashes the bad guy against the wall. And it's like, oh shit, he's Superman's kid.
Oh, dang.
Yep. Which in a better movie would be a very cool scene. But
right.
Lex has thrown his stupid crystal into the ocean. It's starting to make this island, and the island's growing, and it's making, the regular United States shake and rumble, and there's earthquakes and stuff. And the Daily Planet ball that sits on top of the Daily Planet, it falls off the building, and it's falling down onto like Jimmy Olsen's there and Perry White. Well, Superman catches it, and I think this is the coolest visual in the entire movie. Is he catches the Daily Planet ball and just stands there for a second, like posing, holding this up in the air, and I think it looks really cool. I remember when the movie was coming out, all the like promotional images were of that scene.
Nice. Do you think you paused for a second so Spider-Man could take a picture, Peter Parker?
Yeah, I think so. Because J. Jonah Jameson's like, bring me pictures of Superman.
I need Superman. Did you get it?
Pictures of Superman or you're fired. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but one thing that really drags this movie down is that besides Luthor, there's no villain for Superman to punch. And so it's just all story all the time. But there is a cool sequence where there's a bunch of glass falling onto people in the street, and Superman shoots his heat vision across and melts all the glass before it hits them. I think that's kind of cool. And then there's a part where James Marsden, he takes a seaplane to go save Lois on the ocean, and he's landing, but there's crystals coming out of the ocean every fucking which way, and there's so many waves, and he's like, I can't take off in this. And Superman goes, I'll point you in the right direction. The camera shows Superman just holding the airplane in the air, and then he basically just launches it and they can take off. Superman lands on Lex's island, and when he lands, he like crashes the ground, does a Superman landing, and then the camera like does a zoom in on the S on his chest, and it looks really fucking cool.
Nice.
Because he's on this island, the island is laced with kryptonite all throughout the ground. And Superman doesn't know this when he first arrives. So he's standing there and he walks right up to Lex Luthor and he's like, Lex Luthor, you're going to stop this. You're going to knock it off. And Lex Luthor's like, actually, Superman, you're the one that's going to get knocked off. And then he starts kicking the shit out of Superman. And like, I mean, it's pretty brutal, actually. Like, he's getting kicks in, he breaks his ribs, he's punching him, he's taking his. He's like holding the back of his head, smashing him into the ground. He drowns him in a puddle of water. Like it's rough. But I love the fact that Superman never gives up. There's even a sequence where like he's getting dragged on the ground by his neck and he's like screaming at Lex, I'm Superman, I'm still Superman. And then Lex takes a kryptonite blade that he made, stabs Superman in the back, breaks the kryptonite off inside him. And yeah, I think this is the coolest scene in this movie because it's, hey, Lex actually is a little bit vicious for once, and he's not just a goofball who cares about islands or whatever.
Right.
After that, he's Superman's pushed into the ocean. When like Lois Lane gets the plane turned around, she goes in, swims in the ocean, saves Superman. They manage to rip the kryptonite out of him enough that they fly him up into the air. He uses the sun's energy because he's solar powered. Superman is, and he flies up into the air, soaks up a bunch of the energy from the sun. Then he flies super speed down into the island. As he's flying down, he uses his heat vision to like destroy the island or whatever. He basically flies onto the island and uses all his strength to fly upward and lift the island out of the water. He lifts the island into space and basically like flings it off into space. And it is pretty cool that he sacrifices his own life to like fight through the kryptonite that's killing him and like lift this island out of the fucking world and into space. It's also dumb because he's just lifting an island. Like I feel like everything cool in this movie is like immediately backtracked by he's just fighting an island or whatever. Like I don't know.
Right.
And then this is really the first Superman movie to do the Superman is dead storyline. But I think they do it in the worst possible way because he dies from an island and not from like a fight, like Doomsday fighting him and killing him in a fight. No, he just lifts an island and dies. But it's the first movie to do the Superman is dead thing. And it's like they bring him into the hospital and they're like trying to operate on him, but they can't cut into him or like jab him with anything because he's super strong. And they have him hooked up to the EKG monitor and his heart line flats. He goes flat. And they're like, oh shit, Superman dies. Then the nurse comes in and she opens the window, like opens the blinds in his window and lets the sun in. Well, he charges up with the sunlight, and then the nurse comes back in and Superman's not in the room anymore. And yeah, Superman's alive, and it sets up a sequel that never happens because this movie didn't make enough money.
Wah, wah, wah. At least he's alive.
Yeah, at least he is. And then my last note is overall, this movie is fine, but a giant misstep in the Superman franchise. And I don't see how they could have realistically continued with a sequel after this one. Like they set up a sequel, but it doesn't make sense how they could have. Like if you've watched the movie, I guess. But Routh is a great choice for Superman, but a lack of villains, tedious character moments, minimal action, and poor pacing make this a long and boring movie for 70% of the runtime, which is over 2.5 hours long.
Yikes.
That sums up the Superman franchise for me.
I'll be honest, from everything you're saying, long movies, bad movies, I don't feel like I missed out on much.
No, that's why I even said like Superman and Superman 2, I would check those out. They're still good. They hold up really well, but everything else, they're kind of bad.
Yeah, I meant to, just ran out of time.
Yeah.
So I'll probably will one day, but
I honestly, for Superman Returns?
Yeah, what was your rating for that one?
I give it 2 stars.
Okay.
I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's good. There's good stuff in it, but just overall, it's not great. And I honestly, when I was putting together this list, I was surprised that Superman Returns has a 74% of Rotten Tomatoes because I was like, it seems pretty high for this.
Well, there you go.
And that was all the Superman movies from 1978 to 2006. Nearly 30 years.
We were only alive for one of them.
That's very true. I saw it in theaters twice because I saw it in 3D in theaters and I saw it in the drive-in as well.
I bet that was cool.
It was. I really enjoyed this movie as a child. And then as I got older and watched it again, it was like, you know what? This isn't that great of a movie.
You're like, what?
Superman doesn't do anything.
Well, did you have a good time with this episode since you did 99% of the talking?
I had a lot of fun with it. It was fun to rewatch these because I haven't watched the Superman movies in a very long time. I'm tired of talking though. It was a lot.
I bet. Well, I enjoyed listening. I felt like a listener. Like I feel like I was in studio just listening to the podcast.
Well, that's nice. Was it fun at least?
Yeah.
I tried to make it enjoyable because I like Superman, so
I think it was the best you could have done.
thank you. And even like
okay, good. I thought you were gonna take that as a diss.
like even like Superman 3, I hate that movie. I think it's the worst Superman movie ever made, but it was fun watching it.
Are you ready?
For what?
Wheel of Nothing.
Versus?
Yeah, I dropped the ball this episode. I'm gonna just forfeit this one because I don't know a single thing about a single character except Superman, and we'd flip the coin and you'd pick Superman first anyway.
I wouldn't actually.
But Superman wins every single thing.
I actually was gonna choose Zod as my first one because in Superman 2, Zod is stronger and more powered than Superman, and the only reason he loses is because Superman tricks him into giving him his powers to Superman.
Well, that's what I would do if I was Superman. No, the wheel would spin it so Zod fights Lois Lane.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. She'd like spark up a cigarette and be like, now what?
Yeah. And the one power Zod has that Superman doesn't is telepathy. He can use his finger and make people like pick him up and stuff. Superman can't do that in the movies. Superman can take his S off his chest and throw it, and it looks really goofy though.
Oh yeah, it's like a little spider web.
Yeah, it's like the outer wrap on a cigarette pack. It's like that. Cellophane.
Like cellophane, yeah.
Yeah,
like one of those emergency blankets you keep in the car.
exactly.
Yeah, nice. Well, sorry folks about the sad news about no wheel of verses, but that's okay because now we are tied because I forfeited. We are 6-6 with a tiebreaker next week.
Which I'm excited to tell you guys what next week is. But first, I just sent you the Superman S thing. If you watch one thing and review it on this podcast, that'll be it.
A sentimental replica of a planet long since vanished.
That was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
But it's amazing.
The flying is horrible. The first one just lowers, then you can see the like almost stumble landing because the strings came down too fast. And then when Zod takes off, it's just like
that's non actually. That was non.
Okay, I wasn't paying. See, I told you I know nothing. That's why we're not doing Wheel of Verses. The flying was terrible. The S was terrible. It was great overall.
The S is it's the cheesiest thing in the whole movie. But it's one of the most memorable things.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah, because Family Guys even made fun of it.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Well, I am proud to be the champion of Wheel of Verses this time. I feel like I worked really hard on my win.
You are having a comeback. Last time we were tied, it was 3-3, and I worked my way up to 6-3, and now here you come. And now we'll see what happens next week. Yeah.
Well, should we do our outro and then I can tell people what is coming out next week?
You want to throw out the email quick one more time?
Oh, absolutely. And then I'll tell people what's coming out next.
Okay.
So you can email us at ourdads.ourbrothers@gmail.com. Hit us up with any comments, questions, concerns. Give us a topic to do. Tell us your favorite movies you want us to review. Tell us anything. And give us a 5-star review on whatever you're listening this to. That really helps.
Yes, all 5 of them. All 5 stars.
Yes. Our podcast is the Superman 2 of movies.
No. Definitely not.
Well, it's definitely not the Superman 3.
Or 4. Well, and if you're interested, we do have some Instagrams. I've got my personal, Nathan Tracy. I have a One Brick Wall at a Time and Halomoto, HALLOMOTO.
Hello, Moto. I'm BatTracy01 on everything except TikTok. I'm Bat Loves Movies. You can check out my wrestling podcast, Brothers in Tights, and I'm on YouTube at Punk Rock Blues. I believe that is everything I have.
Yeah, what is the next episode going to be about?
We're doing Adam Sandler, part 2, from 2000 to 2009.
Oh yeah, the next installment of The Funny Man.
Sandman.
I'm excited about that.
I am too. I've actually been watching a lot of them. I'm not going to tell you right now, but I watched one I'd never seen before, and I was really happy to.
Very cool. I'm excited to hear about it. I hope I can get some in, but otherwise, you can just talk next time again.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I've seen quite a few of them already
Yeah.
because I like Adam Sandler.
Same. And there is one movie of his that I think is really bad, and I wanted to watch it to confirm my suspicions, and it wasn't streaming anywhere, so I had to pay money to rent it.
If you guys gave us some money, you'd be helping us out by renting some movies.
A bad movie that I didn't like. I think that's all, right?
Yeah, I sure think so.
Well, good. This was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Well, until next time, I'm Nathan Tracy.
And I'm Bad Tracy. And our dads are brothers.
That they are.
They really
Well,
are.
yeah, that was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed myself.
I'm glad you did because I talked a lot.
Should do it again sometime.
I think so. Maybe, I don't know, next Thursday?
I'll have to move around a few things, but I think I can make that work.
We could do a podcast.
Sure.
We just
Sold.
we need a snappy name.
How about get out the way, thumb middle finger needs to hit my palm.
I don't know what it means, but I love it.
That's the action of snapping.
Oh, okay.
That's
I
a
can't snap. I can't snap. So this is what it sounds like. I can't do it.
Sounds like you're beating off.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't snap. I can't do it. I don't know.
All right.
All right, bye.
Bye.